The Adirondacks are warming at a rate faster than the rest of the globe. Our ecosystem is changing quickly. One of the major organizations documenting and working to slow that change is a relatively small research lab based at Paul Smith's College. Earlier this month, one of New York's top leaders traveled up to Paul Smith's to learn more and to hand out some big money. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Wild Center in Tupper Lake, dedicated to strengthening visitors' connections to the natural world. More at wildcenter.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Monday, June 29th. First up, a family in Clinton County is suing the Plattsburgh YMCA over allegations their child was abused at the organization's daycare center. Kara Chapman has more.
The child care center, owned by the Plattsburgh YMCA, is called Bright Beginnings. It's been operating for almost 3 decades. But back in March, the state suspended Bright Beginnings' license after complaints of physical abuse and inappropriate discipline by staff were substantiated. Multiple violations were found, including corporal punishment and failure to report abuse in a timely manner. A new lawsuit filed in Clinton County Supreme Court last week offers more details behind those allegations. It was brought by the family of a now 2-year-old who first enrolled at Bright Beginnings in September. They say she was, quote, subjected to repeated acts of physical abuse and maltreatment by Dylan Bronson, who was an assistant teacher at the center. The lawsuit says at least 3 incidents were caught on video surveillance. Each time, Bronson allegedly grabbed the child and others, quote, by their legs and ankles, violently whipped the children up and then down onto their sleeping cots, and then covered their heads and bodies with blankets. New York City-based attorney Andrew Stengel, who's representing the little girl and her parents, spoke with WCAX Channel 3 News.
There was a pattern of shocking, unconscionable child abuse and maltreatment, not only against my client's daughter, but a whole lot of other children.
The lawsuit claims that, according to state police, all 10 children in the classroom experienced similar treatment. Bronson's co-workers allegedly witnessed dozens of acts of child abuse and maltreatment, but failed to report them. Stengel said he and his clients believe top management at the Plattsburgh YMCA knew about Bronson's alleged actions, and that demonstrates negligence.
The higher up you go, the more responsibility you have. And if a high-level administrator at Bright Beginnings of the YMCA knew about the child abuse and maltreatment, they should have reported it immediately and put a stop to it, and we believe that did not happen.
The lawsuit says the child, quote, suffered and continues to suffer severe physical and psychological injuries. Her family is seeking a jury trial and damages. Bright Beginnings was temporarily shut down after the state suspended its license in March. The lawsuit says Bronson and several other employees were fired, including the organization's chief executive officer. The YMCA's board of directors has since brought on an interim CEO. Bright Beginnings reopened last month to families who'd been enrolled prior to the shutdown and needed childcare. In a statement, the YMCA board said it was reviewing the lawsuit with legal counsel and was unable to comment further. The group added that, quote, the safety and well-being of the children entrusted to our care remains our highest priority, and we remain committed to rebuilding the trust placed in this organization by the families we serve. The board also said it has continued cooperating with authorities investigating the allegations. The Clinton County District Attorney's Office said in an emailed statement Friday that it can't comment on pending investigations. A state police spokesperson did not return a request for comment. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
A nonprofit based in Keene has purchased an iconic building in Lake Placid as its new headquarters. The Adirondack Land Trust announced yesterday that an anonymous donor funded the $2.1 million real estate purchase. The round-shaped structure on Saranac Avenue was originally built for the 1980 Olympics. It was then home to the Aroma Round Cafe before sitting vacant for the last 20 years. In a press release, CEO Mike Carr said the Land Trust has grown out of its rental space in Keene and called the building in Lake Placid the perfect permanent home for the nonprofit. The Land Trust says it'll finalize architectural plans and begin renovations over the next 2 years before moving into its new headquarters in 2029. A research lab in the Adirondacks was awarded $1 million in state funding. The Adirondack Watershed Institute conducts research and runs a summer stewardship program at boat launches across the park. Democratic Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie and Assemblyman Michael Cashman toured AWI last week before announcing the state funding. Emily Russell reports.
The Adirondack Watershed Institute sits on the shores of Lower St. Regis Lake. It's part of Paul Smith's College. On a recent warm summer day, AWI's executive director Maureen Cunningham led a tour of the institute for Assembly members Carl Heastie and Michael Cashman.
And we'll go downstairs to the lab.
AWI has been around for decades. They monitor about 200 lakes in the Adirondacks, which equates to about a third of the park's watershed. Heastie and Cashman filed into the first floor lab. AWI's Leah Treybergs gave the two a rundown of some of their research.
We are aiming to collect water quality data on lake and stream health, focusing on legacy and emerging threats like harmful algal blooms, acid deposition, road salt impacts, and climate change.
The Adirondacks are warming at a faster rate than the global average. Winters are getting shorter and milder, and summers are getting longer and hotter. One result of that is the algal blooms that Treybergs mentioned. They're popping up in places like Lake Champlain, and they can make the waters toxic for people, pets, and other animals. Heastie, who represents part of the Bronx, asked what could be done about it.
Is there a treatment for the lakes? What's the response when you find that the algae blooms are?
So there's not much in terms of immediate management that can be done.
The key, Treyberg said, is to follow the state's advice. Know it, avoid it, report it. The DC has an online form that people can fill out to report harmful algal blooms.
So now we're going to move into the working lab.
Heastie and Cashman gathered around a student lab tech wearing a white coat. Noah Rayberg used a syringe to pull a water sample from a plastic cup and then deposit it into little glass jars.
So I'm filtering for DOC, which is dissolved organic carbon, and also anions and cations.
He's essentially preserving the water samples so they can be analyzed later on. After a few more stops along the way, the group headed outside for the grand finale. A man in a light blue vest powered on the big yellow water pressure tank. It's what AWI's watershed stewards use at more than 60 boat launches across the park. They flush out boat engines and power wash hulls to prevent the spread of invasive species. The stewardship program employs more than 100 people each summer. It's managed by Brett Wimsat. Heastie asked Wimsat what happens if stewards do find invasives.
So when you find them, what do you do?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, so we have these 120 watercraft inspection stewards. So the first thing is inspection. And if we can just find it, a lot of times we've found these already on half a dozen different boats at 2 or 3 different launches this summer.
Wimsat says it's key to catch invasive species like water chestnuts or Eurasian water milfoil before boaters launch into Adirondack waters.
Once it arrives, we're looking at $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 worth of management each year to keep up with dive teams or benthic barrier matting or potential chemical treatments, whatever it might be. So being able to stop it before it arrives, that's the best use of every single dollar.
AWI has a 5-year, $13 million contract with the DEC to operate its boat inspection sites. At the end of the tour, Heastie said it was pretty eye-opening to tour the lab and to learn about AWI's efforts to stop the spread of invasives.
Sometimes you kind of take for granted. You just think, beautiful lake, people go in, people go out, boats go in, boats go out. But then you realize there are things that we need to be aware of, ways we need to try to protect our waterways and our beautiful lakes and rivers.
Democrats control both the state assembly and Senate, so a collaboration between Heastie and Cashman really matters for this region. Cashman, who was elected just last year, is the North Country's only Democratic lawmaker in Albany. He says these kinds of visits by Heastie in the Adirondacks can make a big difference in budget talks back in Albany.
So when we're having conversations during session and we're advocating, he goes, yeah, I've been to that district. I've seen it. I've touched it. I've talked with your people.
The Adirondack Watershed Institute says it plans to spend the $1 million in state funding on new lab equipment and facility upgrades. AWI says a more modernized lab will help its scientists and lab techs better keep track of the changing climate and environment in the Adirondacks. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio, Paul Smiths.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario, and Mark Corey of Watertown. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.